Kala Kadosh, Erev Tov, I hope all is well, Shavua Tov. We are going to be doing today Daf Yomi, Masechet Batra Daf Mem Amud Aleph. I'm just going to start on Lametet Amud Bet 39b, where we're going to start with Paner Kapara. Paner Kapara, he actually taught the following. Chazar Chazar. Imagine you have the original owner, that he comes and he did a Nid'ur. Remember, Nid'ur means he challenges. He comes and he makes a statement saying that this does not belong to you. And he does it again and again and again. Now, which means every 3 years, he continues doing this. So what happens is that if he's doing it from the original claim, so for example, it never changes the story, and therefore every single 3 years, he's saying the exact same thing. So, there's no chazakah. Why? Because since at the end of the day there was a nid'ur, he broke the chazakah. But if not, which means, right, if not, that the protests are meaningless, and therefore, he does have a chazakah. Okay, which means that if they're contradicting each other, so for example, he said at the beginning that he robbed it, and afterwards he went and he said he sold it, or he still owed it as a security, meaning that once he's changing the story, there's nothing more to do. Amr Rav Nachman, says Rav in the name of Rav Nachman, Mecha'a bifne shnayim. Whenever you make a mecha'a has to be in front of two people. Okay, so that means you need two witnesses in order to make your mecha'a and say, by the way, this guy's in my field, he's not supposed to be there, he's just there. And this is where today's daf is going to start. The end tzarich lomar ketovu. He does not need them to tell them that they have to write it down, right? Why? They may do so even without his instruction, which means even without that, they could come and they could write it down. He doesn't have to tell them, write down the mecha that I just gave you. He gives the mecha, and then they could come and they could actually take note of it. Muda'a bifnei shnayim. Also to do with muda'a, also has to be done in front of two witnesses. Then say you do not need to write down to say ketov. What does that mean? Muda'a is usually when somebody is going to be forced to doing something. So therefore they used to give a muda'a in order to annul what they're going to be forced to do. So I'll give you an example. By Gitin, we have something which is called bitul muda'ut. Why is it bitul muda'ut? Because imagine right now a person comes to the din and he gives a get to his wife, and then afterwards he comes back and he says, by the way, I was forced to do it. And the proof, look at these two witnesses. I took them before I gave the get, and I told them that I'm giving a muda'ah, I'm giving like a notification that I'm being forced to do such a thing. So again, you need to do it in front of two witnesses. But when you're going to do it in front of two witnesses, they do not need to say ketobu. So that's what we do in order to get rid of that, is that we do bitul muda'ot, which means that the Bedin will come and annul any type of muda'ah just in case somebody gave a muda'ah. They annul it, so therefore the get will always be 100% valid. Okay? Hoda'ah bifnei shnayim. The same halacha would apply to hoda'ah. So one more time. We had the concept of the mecha'a, which is rebuking that you stole my field or you're in my field without permission. We had the concept of moda'a. Moda'a means that you're notifying, you're being forced into something and really you didn't want to do it. So for example, somebody's being forced to sell his property. He doesn't want to do it, but he's being forced. So what can he do? So he comes, he gives a moda'a. By the way, you guys should know, I'm being forced into this. It's either I do this or they're going to, I don't know what. And therefore, that's called a muda'a. The next one is hoda'a. What is hoda'a? That I admit that I owe you, whether it's a debt or anything else. So it's going to be two witnesses. But here in this case, you must tell them to write it down, because if not, they cannot write such a document. Okay? They could only write it if it's only going to be benefits of the principal. Here, to do with this, it's not the benefit of the principal, but it's weakening his position. So therefore, he comes and he says, and therefore, once the person has done it, so therefore he cannot come and he cannot say such a thing, because again, it's going to lack credibility until the debtor actually retrieves the document. So therefore, in such a case, he's saying, no, here you have to actually say, ketovu, write it. Kinyan bifnei shnayim. Whenever you make a form of acquisition, two witnesses also as well. So all these things you need two witnesses. But here you do not need to say any more to write it down. They could write it down without any problem whatsoever. The Gemara is going to explain why. Okay. Now he says, but whenever you're going to verify a document, so you're going to come and verify a document that has to be done, right, with